"Excuse me, but I think you're in the wrong place. This event is for people who actually matter," the wealthy businessman sneered at 51-year-old Maria Santos as she stood quietly by the hotel buffet table. The entire charity gala turned to watch, as Robert Blackstone, CEO of Blackstone Industries, publicly humiliated the former army sergeant in front of 200 guests. Maria's weathered hands clutched her small purse tighter, unaware that inside lay her Medal of Honor, earned the night she single-handedly held off enemy forces to protect an entire Afghan village. What happens next will leave you absolutely stunned. If you believe heroes come in all forms, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments. Have you ever seen someone judge a book by its cover only to be proven completely wrong? Stay with us because Maria's story will change how you see courage forever. Maria Santos had been cleaning hotel rooms at the Grand Metropolitan for 8 years. At 51, she moved through the luxury suites with quiet efficiency, making beds and scrubbing bathrooms for guests who rarely acknowledged her existence. Most people saw her uniform and looked right through her, as if she were invisible. Tonight was different. The hotel was hosting its annual charity gala, and Maria had volunteered to work the event for extra pay. Her daughter needed money for college textbooks, and every dollar helped. The grand ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and gold decorations. Men in expensive tuxedos and women in designer gowns mingled around tables that cost more per plate than Maria made in a week. This was a world she observed from the sidelines, but never participated in. Maria was restocking the buffet table when she noticed the spilled wine. Her guest had knocked over a glass, and the red liquid was spreading across the white tablecloth toward the expensive food display. Without thinking, Maria grabbed some napkins and began cleaning up the mess. She had worked enough events to know that leaving spills could ruin the entire setup. That's when Robert Blackstone noticed her. He was a tall man in his 60s, with silver hair and a custom suit that probably cost more than Maria's monthly salary. His company, Blackstone Industries, was one of the event sponsors, and his table was positioned prominently near the front of the room. "Hey you!" he called out loudly. "What are you doing?" Maria looked up from cleaning the spill. "I'm sorry, sir. I was just cleaning up this wine before it spread to the food." "That's not your job right now," Blackstone snapped. "You're supposed to be serving, not making a mess." "I wasn't making a mess, I was cleaning one up," Maria replied politely. "Don't argue with me," Blackstone said, his voice getting louder. Other guests were beginning to turn and watch. Maria felt her face grow hot with embarrassment, but she continued cleaning the spill. She had learned long ago that the best way to handle difficult people was to stay calm and do her job. But Blackstone wasn't finished. "Look at this," he announced to the nearby tables. "They hire these people to work our event, and they can't even follow simple instructions." The word "these people" hung in the air like a slap. Maria's hands stopped moving, and she looked up at Blackstone with a steady gaze. Other guests were staring, now some looking uncomfortable with Blackstone's behavior, others nodding in agreement. Maria could feel their judgment washing over her like a cold wave. "Sir, I was just trying to prevent damage to the buffet," Maria said, her voice still respectful but firm. "I don't care what you were trying to do," Blackstone replied. "You're here to serve food, not to think. Can you handle that, or do we need to get someone else?" The nearby tables had gone quiet. People were leaning in to hear better, treating the confrontation like dinner theater. Maria noticed some guests pulling out their phones, ready to record whatever happened next. "I understand my job, sir," Maria said quietly. "Do you?" Blackstone asked loudly. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you don't understand anything about your place here." Maria's military training kicked in. She had faced far worse than this wealthy bully, but something about his public humiliation felt different, more personal, more cruel. "My place," she repeated. "That's right," Blackstone said, with a smug smile. "You're here to serve people like us, people who actually contribute to society, people who matter." The room was getting quieter as more guests tuned in to watch the scene unfold. Maria could see servers and other hotel staff watching nervously from the corners, afraid to intervene but clearly uncomfortable with what was happening. "And what exactly do you think I am?" Maria asked, her voice still calm, but with an edge that hadn't been there before. "You're the help," Blackstone said simply. "You're here because people like me are generous enough to provide jobs for people like you. The least you can do is be grateful and stay in your lane." Some guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others nodded approvingly at Blackstone's words. The divide in the room was becoming clear. Maria stood up slowly, setting down the wine-stained napkins. She looked around the ballroom at all the faces watching her, some with pity, some with disdain, most with indifference. "People like me," she said. "That's right," Blackstone replied. "People who clean up after their betters. People who should know better than to step out of line at an event like this." The confrontation was escalating, and Maria knew she had two choices. She could apologize, back down, and spend the rest of the evening being humiliated. Or she could stand up for herself and probably lose her job. She thought about her daughter, about the college textbooks, about all the times she had swallowed her pride to keep working. But she also thought about the soldiers she had served with, the ones who had died believing they were fighting for a country where everyone deserved dignity. "You want to know about people like me," Maria said, her voice growing stronger. "I think I've heard enough," Blackstone replied dismissively. "Someone get the manager. I want this woman removed from the event." But Maria wasn't done talking. "People like me," she continued, "serve this country while people like you count your money. People like me bleed on foreign soil while you complain about your taxes. People like me come home and clean your toilets because we need jobs, and you treat us like we're invisible." The room was completely silent now. Even the servers had stopped moving. Blackstone's face was turning red. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone he considered beneath him. "How dare you speak to me like that?" he sputtered. "Do you have any idea who I am? What I've accomplished?" Maria reached into her small purse and pulled out a worn leather wallet. Her hands were steady despite the anger building in her chest. "Do you have any idea who I am?" she asked. "You're nobody," Blackstone shot back. "You're a hotel maid having a breakdown because she can't handle being told what to do." Maria opened her wallet and pulled out a small blue and white ribbon. Attached to it was a star-shaped medal that caught the ballroom lights and sparkled like the chandeliers above. The Medal of Honor. She held it up for everyone to see, and the room went dead silent. "My name is Staff Sergeant Maria Santos, United States Army," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the ballroom. "I received this medal for actions on March 18, 2006, in Kunar Province, Afghanistan." Blackstone's mouth fell open. The other guests leaned forward in their chairs, straining to see the medal. Maria continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "Taliban forces attacked the village where my unit was stationed. They had rocket-propelled grenades, automatic weapons and mortars. My squad was pinned down, and civilian families were trapped in their homes. The room was so quiet that the only sound was the soft hum of the air conditioning. I held my position for 6 hours, Maria said. 6 hours of continuous enemy fire. I called in airstrikes, while Taliban fighters tried to overrun our position. I administered first aid to wounded soldiers while bullets flew over my head, and when ammunition ran low, I crawled through enemy fire to resupply my squad." Blackstone had gone pale. Other guests were staring at the medal in Maria's hand, their expressions shifting from curiosity to awe to shame. 47 civilians lived through that night because I wouldn't abandon my post, Maria said. 3 of my soldiers lived through that night because I wouldn't let them die. And you want to tell me about my place? A woman at table 6 started crying. A man near the back of the room stood up, as if he were going to salute. The hotel staff were staring with their mouths open. Maria put the Medal of Honor back in her wallet and looked directly at Blackstone. "I clean hotel rooms because I need to support my family," she said. "I work charity events because I believe in helping others. I serve food to people like you because honest work has dignity, even when people like you try to take that dignity away." Blackstone was speechless. For the first time in years, maybe decades, he had nothing to say, but Maria wasn't finished. "You asked what I've accomplished," she said. "I've saved lives. I've served my country with honor. I've raised a daughter who's going to college to become a doctor. And I've done it all while people like you looked through me like I was nothing." The silence in the room was deafening. 200 wealthy guests sat frozen, watching a hotel employee educate one of the city's most powerful men about courage and character. An older gentleman at table 12 stood up and began clapping slowly. Then another person joined him. Then another. Within seconds, the entire ballroom was on its feet, giving Maria a standing ovation. Blackstone remained seated, his face red with humiliation and anger. Maria looked around the room at all the people, applauding her. These same people had watched her get humiliated just minutes earlier. Some had nodded approvingly when Blackstone called her the help. Now they were cheering for her. She wasn't sure how to feel about their change of heart. "Thank you," she said simply, and walked toward the kitchen. Behind her, the applause continued. People were talking excitedly, sharing their shock and amazement. But Maria had work to finish. In the kitchen, the other servers and hotel staff surrounded her with congratulations and questions. They had never seen anything like what had just happened. "Maria, that was incredible," said Janet, another housekeeper. "I had no idea you were a war hero." "I'm not a hero," Maria replied. "I'm just someone who did her job when it mattered." But the staff wasn't ready to let it go. Word of the confrontation spread quickly through the hotel. Within an hour, the story was all over social media. Videos of Maria's speech were being shared thousands of times. The hotel manager, Mr. Peterson, came to find Maria in the kitchen. "Maria, I heard what happened out there," he said. "I'm so sorry about Mr. Blackstone's behavior. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Maria replied, "but I should probably finish cleaning up the buffet area." Mr. Peterson shook his head. "You're done for the night. Go home. Spend time with your family. And Maria, you don't have to worry about Mr. Blackstone anymore. He won't be bothering our staff again." The next morning, Maria woke up to hundreds of messages on her phone. The video of her confrontation with Blackstone had gone viral overnight. News stations were calling for interviews. Strangers were sending messages of support and gratitude, but the message that meant the most came from her daughter. "Mom, I saw the video. I'm so proud of you. Not just for your military service, but for standing up for yourself and for all the other people who work hard and deserve respect. I love you." Maria smiled and put down her phone. She had work to do. The Grand Metropolitan had offered her a promotion to event coordinator with a substantial raise. But more importantly, they had promised to provide respect and dignity training for all their high-end clients. Change was slow, but it was happening. That afternoon, Maria received an unexpected visitor. Robert Blackstone stood at her apartment, door looking uncomfortable and much smaller than he had in his expensive tuxedo. "Mrs. Santos, I came to apologize," he said. "What I did last night was inexcusable. I let my arrogance and prejudice blind me to who you really are." Maria listened without speaking. "I've been thinking about what you said," Blackstone continued, "about people like me and people like you. You're right. I've been so focused on making money that I forgot about the people who make sacrifices so I can live in comfort and safety." He pulled out an envelope and handed it to Maria. "This is a check for $50,000, he said. "I want you to use it for your daughter's college education. It's the least I can do to show my respect for your service and my regret for my behavior." Maria looked at the check, then back at Blackstone. "Mr. Blackstone, I appreciate the gesture," she said, "but my daughter doesn't need your money. She needs a world where people don't have to prove their worth with medals and military service to be treated with basic human dignity." Blackstone nodded slowly. "You're right. But please let me do something to make this right." Maria thought for a moment. "There is something you can do," she said. "Use your influence to change how people in your position treat working people. Speak up when you see someone being humiliated. Remember that every person has a story worth respecting." Blackstone agreed, and over the following months, he kept his promise. He implemented sensitivity training at his company, increased wages for service workers, and became an advocate for veteran employment programs. Maria Santos returned to work at the Grand Metropolitan, but everything had changed. Guests treated her with respect. Staff members looked up to her as a leader, and she had found her voice as an advocate for working people and veterans. The Medal of Honor went back into her wallet, but Maria no longer kept her military service a secret. She had learned that hiding her accomplishments didn't protect her from prejudice. Only by standing up and speaking out could she create real change. Sometimes the greatest battles aren't fought on foreign soil. Sometimes they're fought in hotel ballrooms by people who refuse to be invisible anymore.